Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if we're at the number. We're going to give people another minute to kind of get into the room, making sure they have the proper location. But we'll start in just about another 30 seconds or so. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Carlita Alston, and I am supporting this webinar today from Professional Development Team. My role with the Professional Development Team is instructional designer and professional coach. And today with me, I will be presenting with Miss Monica Pruitt, who will be the co-presenter. Monica, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Monica Pruitt, your Downstate Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Monica.
Sure.
So I want to welcome you to this webinar for Toolbox Tuesday and how to ACE compliance. Our target audience for this webinar includes program administrators, program managers, data entry coordinators, IWRS data entry staff persons, and program coordinators. During this course, you will be provided with knowledge to effectively interpret the monthly compliance report and help with verification. So please be reminded that this session is being recorded and will be made available for your review on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. The Partner Guide is available for you in the chat. Thank you, Shar. Before we continue on, if there are any questions, please feel free to write it in the chat or unmute yourself. Are there any questions? All right, so we're going to move on to our next session. By the end of this section, you'll be able to use WebEx features and functions to fully participate in the training, identify what you hope to learn from this training, and also get to know each other, learn from other learners. So in order for you to fully be engaged, we want to review a few of the basic functions of WebEx, like mute and unmute, stop and start the video, the raise hand feature, any of the emojis. And I want to pause here. If you want to throw an emoji up for just for grins, go ahead and do so. And then the last one is for the chat. So when we do ask you if you have any questions, you can certainly throw your question in the chat and someone will respond. Now, to help facilitate the best experience, please keep your lines muted during the presentation to help manage the noise and interruptions during the training. The lines can be unmuted during question and answer sessions or group discussions. But if you have a comment or a question, please share it in the chat or unmute yourself during the Q&A at the end of each of these sections. And we'll try to respond to as many as we can within the allotted time. Is that all right? So what I want to do now is direct your attention to the QR code here on the screen, as well as the blue button that says continue. So you'll see that on the right-hand side of your screen in the multimedia viewer. So what you would want to do right now is go ahead and click that blue continue button, and the Mentimeter app will show in your multimedia viewer so that you are able to actually start answering questions in Mentimeter. You can scan it, or you can also go to menti.com and insert the code. And that is also being provided for you in the chat. And the code is 7594-7592. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to go ahead and upload so that you can be a part of the conversation in the chat. I'm sorry, in the Mentimeter. So it looks like we are seeing some names pop up. What is your name? What is your organization and your role? So we have Morgan Lovelace from row 51. Hi, Morgan. And I'll give people a little bit more time. We have 11 people in the room, so we can go ahead and start filling that in. We have Janet Perales from Metropolitan Family Services. She's a career coach. Thank you. We have Yari from Hacia, a data entry coordinator with Wraparound Services. We have Doug from row 51, data entry coordinator. Hi, Doug. And we have Ari from ABC, Illinois, data entry coordinator. Shannon Foles. Hi, Shannon from row 51. The whole crew is in town. Thank you for joining us. Is there anyone else? All right, so let's move on to the next one. What do you hope to learn from this session today? Go ahead and type your answer in. What do you hope to learn in this section today? So we have a few responses: IWRS efficiency, any compliance updates. Good points. Anything else you would like to learn from this session today? All right. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to shift gears. Oh, we have one more. You want to learn effective tools. And someone else commented as well, IWRS efficiency. So that's a big piece of knowing about that data. So what we're going to do now is switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to transfer this over to our next speaker. I'm going to hand it over to you now, Monica.
All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, thank you for the handoff, Carlita. Thank you for our grantees for being here. Most of them are mine, so yay me. Um, we're going to get into section 3, which is compliance. Okay, so by the end of this section, you'll be able to explain the monthly compliance report process, to utilize tools to help with verification, to leverage compliance tips, and to explain the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant renewal process. So first, we'll talk about the 5 stages of monthly compliance. So these steps are more for grant managers than for you as the grantees, but in the meantime, the monthly compliance has a clear process comprised of 5 stages. First, compliance data is pulled using an export report in IWRS. Your grant manager then reviews and verifies outcomes based on data you have either entered or uploaded into IWRS. Grant managers update verified outcome metrics in IWRS via what we call radio buttons. And in essence, that is us saying that a particular metric, be it enrollment, completion, or transition, has been verified, and therefore you will receive reimbursement for that metric. The next step is to determine your compliance rating based on verified outcome metrics. Your compliance rating may be poor, inadequate, good, or excellent. And last, we create and send you a suite of reports, including the compliance progress report, data verification worksheet, and also a payment worksheet. Okay, so first we're going to discuss compliance data that's pulled using the export report in IWRS. On the menu bar, we select the Export tab to show the drop-down menu of fields. The Export report in IWRS enables users and grant managers to select the fields that will be in the report. Grant managers use the Export report to identify participants in enrollment and completion statuses. Next, we verify outcome metrics based on data entered or uploaded into IWRS. The enrollment verification process, which I know many of you have just recently gone through, includes confirmation of the following. Has your pre-screen assessment been completed? In the application, we're looking for information. Is the applicant 18 years or older? Are they an Illinois resident? There's a level of education section. We need to know what's the highest level of education that a participant has completed. Also, we ask for employment history, and that's either current or most recent. Admittedly, we are a little bit more lenient if the participant is under the age of 21. It is possible that perhaps that person does not have a work history, but if you are over the age of 21, generally we would expect to see some form of either current or recent employment history. We look for eligibility. Eligibility consists of your legal name, confirmation of your age via your date of birth, and also confirmation of Illinois residency. What we love to see is a driver's license or a state ID, because those two things have all of the information that we need: legal name, date of birth, Illinois residency. Other forms of documentation can be used for eligibility, but just understand more than one document may be required. For instance, if you were to provide a birth certificate, obviously it would confirm the legal name and the date of birth, but a separate document would need to be uploaded to confirm Illinois residency, as we could not get that from the birth certificate. Everyone who enrolls into the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program must have a high school diploma, transcript, or GED, unless you are a part of the pre-approved high school model, which we also have. Of course, they already understand the differences there. There should be an interview for each participant. The interview should be completed by 2 different staff members. What we ask you to do in IWRS is to enter both interviewer names, both first and last name, and the average score of the 2 interviews. Again, this includes first and last names. We have a big issue with that. And that average interview score is doing us in. The maximum score for each individual interview sheet is 40. So, you get your 2 scores divided by 2. Please give us just the average score of the 2 interviews. One thing that has not been very strongly enforced in the past, but we are trying to make sure that we enforce it and that all of the grant managers are consistent. The 2 interview sheets must have an original signature by each of the interviewers. So please don't use a stamp or a font signature or anything along those lines. We are actually looking for original signatures. The commitment agreement must be signed by a staff member and the participant, again, both requiring an original signature. And I want to point out, because we've had this a few times already this year, we want to make sure that you're using the commitment agreement from the 2026 grantee manual. It's only slightly different from some of the previous commitment agreements. However, it is very, very important that you actually use the most recent version of the commitment agreement that is found in the 2026 grantee manual. We want to make sure that all participants are enrolled in the proper cohort. Please don't accidentally enroll somebody for, say, for instance, 2025, because we're now in 2026. A couple of other things. The wraparound service assessment. In the past, you've entered the information into IWRS as far as any wraparound services that a participant may anticipate needing. Now, for 2026, we actually have a paper copy of the wraparound service assessment. Each participant should fill out and sign the paper wraparound service assessment. Then you, as the grantee or your data entry coordinator, should take the answers that are provided by the participant on the paper copy and enter that same information into the electronic version into IWRS. Those 2 documents should match. Okay. The orientation and career assessment is required. Again, we want to make sure the overall status in IWRS is enrolled. And also, again, somebody said they want to know what's new. Another thing that we're asking or requiring is that the Illinois Works orientation attendance roster must be uploaded for enrollment verification. It makes your lives and our lives so much easier if we know from the very beginning who was actually there. So the best way to determine that is by way of the Illinois Works orientation attendance roster. All right, that's a lot, I know. Next, let's move into completion verification. And it doesn't get any simpler with completion verification, but the completion verification process ensures that the training modulars match your approved curriculum. So anything that you included as a part of your final curriculum form should be included as a training modular in IWRS. If for some reason you have a training modular that is missing, please let your grant manager know immediately. Each training service has an 80% attendance or above requirement, and also a 70% post-assessment or above requirement. The exception is OSHA 10 construction, where 100% attendance is required. All training services, in order to receive completion verification, all training services must be in a successful completion status. And there are a few exceptions. For first aid, CPR, and perhaps OSHA 10, a participant may have come into the program already having those certifications. If that's the case, that training modular may not necessarily be a successful completion, but it may be evaluated and not required if those credentials are still current. And earn credential entry for each credential successfully completed. So your first aid, CPR, your OSHA 10, and whichever the construction training programs you use, you must manually enter the credential that was earned in IWRS. All services under each goal must be in an appropriate final status. So for transition services, in order to receive a completion verification, at least one transition service is required. Any wraparound service that was requested must have been entered into IWRS. And anybody who's been around for a while, you already know, even if a participant does not initially request a wraparound service, if something were to happen during the course of instruction and they have a new need, that need could be added manually to wraparound services. We just want to make sure that our participants get the services that they need. If there is a service, other services must have a case note. So one of the things that we ask are related to wraparound services, are there other needs that a participant may have? And those are not specific. Those just come up as other. So if you provide an other service, you must also provide a case note. We need to know what service was provided and also the dollar value of that service. And all of that can be done manually in IWRS. If the supported service has a cost associated with it, again, we want you to enter under dollar value of service what the dollar amount was. At the end of the day, we know that we are providing wraparound services to participants. We don't also always know the value of the services that we're providing. So that's one of the things that we also want to do a much better job with this year. And then all goals must be in a final status of it, either complete. For completion verification, of course, all the goals must be complete. The other option is off track, incomplete, and then, of course, as a grantee, you would not receive completion verification for that. Okay, moving on to the next slide where completion verification continues. The completion verification process confirms the following. Let me get the next slide, please, Carlita. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had errors. Okay, so the completion verification process confirms the following. The satisfaction survey must be successfully submitted by at least 75% of your completers. Attendance rosters for each training modular and also any makeup attendance rosters must be properly uploaded to cohort details. All stipend payments must have been entered into IWRS, and there should be alignment of these four things. The attendance that is entered into IWRS, the attendance that's recorded on your attendance rosters, the stipend payments that are paid based on instruction hours, and also the PFR reimbursement requests should equal the IWRS stipend entry. So these are the four things that we look at and hope that they are in alignment in order to verify your completions. Okay, the completion verification process also confirms. Told you it didn't get any easier when you get to completions. A pre-transition career assessment must be completed, and you can find that assessment on the intake tab. Completion documentation must be uploaded for each required certification, and each certification, that being your first aid CPR, your OSHA 10 construction, and either your NCCER, your MC3, or your ICCB, must be issued in the participant's legal name. So we see the participant's legal name as what is on their driver's license. So if the driver's license has a hyphenated last name, we need those certifications to also have a hyphenated last name. In order to receive completion verification, we need to have a proper resume uploaded into IWRS. Some of the things that should be included on the resume are the ILW ID number, and that is actually the WorkNet ID number that you find in IWRS. The resume should include confirmation that the individual is a graduate of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. And upon completion of the program, that person is now Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative compliant and also Illinois Works bid credit eligible. We want to see those three things that are outlined there on the resume. We also want to see confirmation that the individual attained the first aid CPR certification, their OSHA 10-hour construction certification, and again, either the NCCER Core, Trades Futures MC3, or ICCB certification. And this part kind of feels like it shouldn't be that everyone should know. I guess that's why it's not on the slide. Please make sure the resume is appropriate for the construction trades. I saw an excellent resume last year. It was beautifully outlined. It was very detailed. I can't say anything bad about the resume except for the fact that it did not mention construction one time. That person had an interest in animals and veterinarian science, and it was the most beautiful resume I'd ever seen before. However, it is not helpful to us if we are attempting to help this person get a job and a career in construction. So please make sure that the resume is relevant to the construction trade. In order to receive completion verification, each participant's overall status must be complete or complete and in transition. And obviously we're really looking for complete and in transition because that means that that participant has received at least one transition service from your organization. Complete simply means that they're done with the instruction, and that's just not good enough. We need to make sure that those transition services are all also being provided. And then new for 2026, a valid driver's license must be uploaded to IWRS before participant receives completion verification. In doing my review this last month, there were several driver's licenses that were valid at the time that the participant entered the program, but they have since expired. So in order to receive that completion verification, we need a valid driver's license. So if you have a participant who's on the cusp or very close, please make sure you help them get a valid driver's license before the program ends. Okay, and then there's transition verification. And of course, the goal of the program is to transition participants into DOL registered apprenticeship programs. So transition verification is very, very vital. The transition verification process ensures the following. You know what? I'm pause for a second. Carlita, are there questions in the chat? I feel like I see things popping up before I get too far away from the topic at hand. Are there questions that I can answer before we jump into transitions?
I would like to defer that to Shar.
Okay.
Yes, there are some questions in the chat. So, trying to see where to start because there's
Oh, it's a lot.
there's a couple.
Okay.
So one question is, are there any video tutorials on how to efficiently upload all the documents required for candidates?
The short answer is yes. There are videos on our partner guide based on prior IWRS trainings that we have provided. I cannot give you a date. I cannot tell you specific video, but the short answer is yes. Ordinarily, we do 3 IWRS trainings a year. Most recently, we've moved to the full day in-person training, but there are videos from past trainings that we've done that will show you step by step how to upload documents. If that does not work, certainly feel free to reach out to your individual grant manager, and we're always happy to schedule some time with you to help answer those questions.
Okay. There is a secondary question, and I can answer this. Do temporary driver's license count as valid? Yes. I can answer that quickly. And then I believe the last one is, there a batch upload process like a mass upload versus uploading individuals?
Okay, I have heard tell of the batch upload, but I'm not quite sure what. I don't understand the question. What exactly are they trying to upload? And feel free to unmute and provide additional details.
Yeah. While they're doing that, there's another question. As long as they have a driver's license before completion, are they good to go? Oh, so
Absolutely.
this person is, let me see. They need to be unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Sorry, my mic was locked. So we were just wondering, like, in terms of a batch upload. So for example, like we're uploading attendance sheets for all of the modules, and we have to go in per individual and upload each attendance sheet per individual in IWRS. Is there a way to do a batch upload to where when we upload the attendance sheets for one of our cohorts, it goes to everybody in our cohort versus having to go by individual to upload it every single time?
Morgan, I would have to look into that further. There is a such thing as batch upload, to be very honest, because that's what I do. I don't know how that works. So I would have to look into that more for you, but okay, and let me make sure I'm understanding correctly. When you go to grantee details and you upload an attendance roster for that whole training module or whatever that may be, you're asking, is there a way that the those individual attendance hours can be uploaded for each participant without you having to go to the individual participant and put in the number of hours that they attended? Is that correct?
Sorry, my mic keeps getting locked.
No problem.
That is correct. So yeah, so right now, like we have, for example, like let's say it's me and John Smith. Like I go into myself and we upload all the attendance sheets, but John's in the same cohort as me, so then I have to click on John and go upload all the attendance sheets to John's account.
No. So you should go to grantee updates or grantee details and you update. Oh, good Lord. You go to grantee details and you upload the attendance roster just once for that individual training modular. Now, what you do have to do by each participant is you go to John Smith at the same time you upload, or the same time you enter the post-assessment score, enter the earned credentials, you would also enter the number of hours that John Smith attended each one of the training hours. But you're not actually going in and uploading an attendance roster to John Smith, to each individual person in the cohort.
Okay, thank you.
And call me if we need to talk about that more.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
So there was one more question, and I'm unclear. As long as they have a driver's license before completion, then they're good to go. Are you asking about completion credit? Are you asking about eligibility? So I'm not sure what your question is, if they're good to go, because a driver's license is always going to be fine for eligibility. Now it's a requirement for completion, but you do need to make sure that it is not an expired driver's license, because we do see that as grant managers, where there is a driver's license but it's not it's expired. Okay, as long as they have a driver's license before completion, then they're good to go. Okay. All right. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, we won't grant a completion verification if the participant does not have a valid driver's license. Okay, so now that we got everybody valid driver's license and all of their attendance rosters uploaded, we move on to transition verification. So the transition verification process ensures the following. For preliminary primary transitions, we are ensuring that there has been an application for a registered apprenticeship program, that a participant is perhaps on a wait list for a registered apprenticeship program. We're looking for documentation that the application was received from the registered apprenticeship program. So basically, the preliminary primary transition is proof and documentation that a participant has successfully applied to a registered apprenticeship program. The confirmation and the documentation that we are looking for must contain the participant's name and the name of the RAP. This must be a third-party document that comes directly from the RAP, and it must show submission of the application. Oftentimes, we may even receive a copy of the completed application, but for the fact that I know that you completed the application does not show me that you actually submitted it to the registered apprenticeship program who needs to receive it. So in order to receive a preliminary primary transition, again, we're looking for third-party documentation that a participant successfully applied to a registered apprenticeship program. In order to receive final primary transition verification, a participant would have to provide to the grantee an acceptance letter for a registered apprenticeship program or a sponsorship letter. So primary transitions, which are transitions into a registered apprenticeship program, are kind of two-pronged. There's the application process and then actual acceptance or enrollment into a registered apprenticeship program. If a primary transition document is uploaded, then as far as your transition services are concerned, assistance with completing an apprenticeship program application transition service must be added under the transition service goal and marked as a successful completion. Sometimes somebody might say, oh, well, we didn't provide a transition service. Well, yeah, if that person applied to a registered apprenticeship program and you assisted in that process, then you did indeed provide a transition service, and that needs to be documented as a successful completion. Also, as a reminder, these examples are not an exhaustive list of all items that will be accepted. They are only those that are most often submitted. So if you have a question about a document, certainly reach out to your grant manager and ask if this is sufficient or if you need additional information. And then there's always the option of just uploading it. And when we do review, we'll take a look at it and let you know if we need something different. Okay, so continuing with transition verifications, we also have secondary and alternative construction transitions. In order to receive verification for one of these two transition types, you can provide us with a pay stub or offer letter for permanent full-time employment. And I like to just point out with the pay stub, it needs to be a pretty detailed pay stub. Obviously the person's name and their position and their wage and their benefits and things like that. We have seen some pay stubs that didn't necessarily provide a lot of information, but in order for us to grant a secondary or an alternative construction transition, we need that pay stub or an offer letter for permanent full-time employment. There's also an exhibit in the 2026 Grantee Manual. It's the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Exhibit 18, Employment Verification Form. This form is to be completed by the employer, not the student participant. So if you do have someone who has gone out and gotten permanent full-time employment, they can use exhibit, and they don't have a pay stub or they don't have an offer letter, they can use exhibit 18 and have their employer complete that form and send it to us. And then acceptance to an alternate, which really should be replaced with an advanced training program, or a transcript to an alternate or advanced training program or schooling could be considered a secondary transition. And again, these are just examples that will be accepted, but obviously you may receive something different. So please, talk with your grant manager if you want to know if that document is sufficient or not. Okay. So in our role as grant managers, we are accountable for verifying outcome metrics in IWRS. Transition documents are only reviewed at the time of completion verification. And once completion has been verified, grantees must notify a grant manager of transition document uploads. And just to clarify that a little bit, ordinarily, once instruction is done, well, always, not ordinarily, once instruction is done, 2 weeks later, we begin to look at transition outcomes. Most of the time, completions and transitions are reviewed at the same time. There are some exceptions where perhaps when we pull data, you have completed instruction, but the full 2 weeks has not passed, in which we start to look at transitions. That does happen on occasion, but after that, if you receive a transition document from a participant, you would need to let your grant manager know, because, obviously it could be 3 months later or 6 months later, or it could be 2 years later when a participant actually gets that documentation that they need. So we as grant managers don't go back every month and say, hey, I wonder what happened to that one kid that one time. Let me check and see if there's a transition document for him. So the responsibility is on you as the grantee to let your grant manager know, hey, there's a new document uploaded for transitions that I need you to go take a look at, because I think we're eligible for reimbursement. Okay, I think I probably need to speed up. So let's talk about determining compliance ratings. It's important to understand how to determine a compliance rating based on verified outcome metrics. To determine which outcome metrics need to be factored into the compliance score, your Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant managers look at the grantee's work plan instruction dates. For enrollment will be added as an outcome metric if the compliance date is after the program start date. So if your program has started, we've already looked at your data for enrollment. Completion will be added as an outcome metric if the compliance date is after a cohort's instruction end date. So that's one of the reasons that we always ask that your work plan is up to date, so that we'll know exactly when we need to start looking for completion verifications for you. And then, as I explained just a minute ago, transitions will be added as an outcome metric if the compliance date is 2 weeks after a cohort's instruction end date. So that's how we determine that. So on your screen is an example of how we determine which outcome metrics to review and how we determine your compliance rating. So in this particular example, 3 metrics are taken into consideration. You can see for cohort 1, we have our goals, and then we have the actual number of participants. So for cohort 1, we would take a look at enrollment and completion, because you can see there that there are numbers in both of those actual columns. For cohort 2, we would only take a look at enrollments, because you will notice that there are no actual numbers for completion, or for that matter, I don't know why there's not a goal for completion, because certainly we would expect anybody who enrolled to have completions. But If there are no completions, obviously we would not look at that metric. So for this example, we will look at enrollments and completions for cohort 1. We will look at enrollments for cohort 2. So we add your total percentage for the 2. We divide it by 3 because those are the 3 metrics. And your overall rating and compliance would be good progress at 87%. Okay, let's do an exercise. Okay, so exercise 1, let us begin by reviewing this example. So compliance will be pulled on 7/7 of 2026, which that's close. It'll probably be somewhere around that time. So based on the program dates below, which metrics will be taken into consideration during this compliance review? So for cohort 1, the program started on March the 13th of 2026, and the program ended on May 15th of 2026. Cohort 2 doesn't begin until July 17th, and that program will run through September 15th of 2026. So based on those dates, which metrics will be taken into consideration during this compliance review, which will be pulled on 7/7 of 2026? And if somebody wants to, or lots of people want to put the answer in the chat, please do. I know you may not be able to unmute yourselves. Which metrics are we going to look at? Are we looking at enrollments? Are we looking at completions? Hint, are we looking at transitions? What are we looking at? Charles, there's any answers in
Can
the
you hear me?
chat if you would mind sharing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear, yes.
Okay, so I think completions complete and in transition, especially for cohort 1, since all the entire cohort has already gone through the process. So everything up until complete in transition, I believe.
Okay, actually, so you're going to have your enrollments, your completions, and your transitions, because again, looking at that program start date, completion date, and then 2 weeks later, yes, you have your transition. So perfect. Thank you. All right, let's go to exercise 2. Again, the compliance date will be on July the 7th. Cohort 1 started in February. It ended in May. Cohort 2 started in June, and it runs through September the 11th of 2026. Using this example and your knowledge, which metrics will we look at during this compliance pool based on those dates? What are we looking for? And the metrics again are enrollment, completion, and transition. And certainly somebody come off mute and share with us.
All right. Well, I'll go again. I'll give it another whack.
Okay.
The first one would be all 3: enrollment, completion, and transition. Cohort 2 would just be enrollments.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, gold star for Darius. Good job. All right. Thank you so much. That's perfect. All right, let's get into how we go about creating these monthly compliance reports. So your Illinois Awards pre-apprenticeship program grant managers create and send progress reports to each grantee. The monthly compliance progress report is documentation of a grantee's progress toward enrollment, completion, and transition goals as entered into IWRS over the course of the preceding month. It provides per cohort metrics and reimbursement levels, in addition to IWRS data trends and other information you might need to know. Now, each grant manager probably does things a little bit differently, but I'll just use this as an example. One thing I try to include in the progress report is the number of participants they have submitted a participation survey if the numbers are low, along with the survey link. So if you're getting close to completion and we're checking for survey results and we're not finding any, it's like, hey, here's a reminder. And also the link, please make sure your participants are participating in our survey. So that's one of the things we send you. The next thing we send is a payment worksheet. Payment worksheet. Yeah, there we go. So this is a sample on the screen, and obviously you can't see the details, but this is a sample of a payment worksheet. The monthly compliance payment worksheet is documentation of a grantee's progress towards unlocking the full financial amount of their grant award based on their performance. It provides aggregate metrics and reimbursement per metric, as well as the year-to-date total approved reimbursement level. This cumulative worksheet outlines the total number of enrollments, completions, primary transitions, alternative construction, and secondary transitions that have been verified by your grant manager throughout the year. This report also provides grantees with a detailed outline of their custom performance-based payment funding formula and reimbursement maximum, along with your grant award information. So very important payment worksheet. And then the document that you probably interact with most is the verification spreadsheet. And again, we do have a sample on the screen. The verification worksheet is documentation of a grantee's progress towards enrollment, completion, and transition on a per participant basis. The spreadsheet identifies flags, when we call them flags, where data could not be verified. If participant data is verified, then the month and the year of the verification is noted within the appropriate metric. So typically the month and the year, and here you can see that would be column B, which would be enrollment verification. It looks like July, we're going to pretend that says 26 instead of 24. July would be highlighted in a bright green. So that's just a quick, easy visual to see exactly what you got verification for that particular month, and therefore what you will receive reimbursement for. As far as column L is concerned, needed for verification, there each grant manager provides information about what you need to provide in order to receive verification. So in this particular instance, the interview score is calculated incorrectly. So the instruction is to correct, rescan, and upload, and also to re-enter the interviewer names and correct average score. So right there, as long as you do those things that have been asked of you by your grant manager, the following month you receive enrollment verification for that particular person. So that's very important. So a couple of tools to help with verification. The export report is located in the Illinois Works reporting system under the Participant Recruitment and Enrollment tab. There you can select the blue Export tab to open the export menu. You can select which fields you want to export, and the fields that are pre-selected are added to every report. So in the same way that we go in and pull an export report, you can also go in and pull reports for yourself. The export report provides the status of certain individual participant data. Okay, so next slide, I think. Okay, there we go. So overall status, you can see current grantee determined IWS status at the time of the report. So okay. And that would generally be whether that person is incomplete, complete, and in transition, what status that person is in exactly. Again, with the export report, you can pull things such as the highest level of education, interview scores, the first career assessment, which assigned cohort the person is in. For things like completion, you have your OSHA 10-hour construction, first aid CPR, NCCR core, ICCB, MC3. You can see whether or not those certifications have been uploaded. You can use the report to see if there are any attendance flags, any post-assessment flags, and also any last career assessment, whether or not the last career assessment has been done, in which we call that the pre-transition career assessment. Next slide, please. As mentioned earlier, the verification spreadsheet lists flags where verifications are needed. In the example here, a brief description of the missing information is provided for the grantee to rectify for the next data review. And as I said just a slide or so ago, take a look there, make the corrections that are needed for verification the following month. All right, a couple of checklists that are helpful. The data verification checklist assists the grantee with ensuring they are systematically reviewing the data for verification. The checklist is located in the 2026 Grantee Manual under Exhibit 16, Verification Checklist. It is important to note that this checklist does not contain every item necessary for successful compliance. Therefore, grantees may need to enhance the checklist to ensure their specific needs are captured. For example, a grantee may receive flags indicating that their data entry has failed to capitalize the first letter of their participants' first and last names. They should add that to their checklist for systemic data review as part of their data quality management. Okay, another very helpful document is the participant file checklist. This checklist assists grantees with verification. The checklist can be found in the 2026 Grantee Manual under Exhibit 7, which is the participant file checklist. Okay, just a couple more slides. Compliance tips. Okay, so quickly we're going to discuss some compliance tips for meeting successful compliance requirements. As I stated earlier, please ensure that your work plan dates are always up to date. We would hate for you to be held accountable for a metric that you have not met yet. For instance, if you say that you are starting a cohort on a particular day, but we don't know that you've changed those dates, we will still hold you accountable for enrollment beginning on the date that is included on the work plan that we currently have. Prior to compliance pulls, double check your participants' statuses. A lot of you had participants in enrollment status last month. If your cohort has ended, those folks should probably have been moved to complete or complete and in transition status. If they remain in enrolled status, we're not able to verify them for completion verification. So double check those statuses. If time is of the essence, go person by person, not task by task. Do absolutely everything for one person, and at least you receive reimbursement for that one person. If you do a few of the tasks for everybody, consequently, you don't get reimbursement for anybody. So go person by person, not task by task. Develop and follow a data management plan. We always scream, ask your Illinois Works grant manager. But one more thing too, while we're with compliance tips, make sure that the documents that you upload are legible. We see an awful lot of dark, blurry, different types of documents. It helps so much with compliance. If we can't read it, we can't verify it. Please make sure that your documents are legible. And again, ask your Illinois Works grant manager if you have any questions. I think the last thing I'm talking about is grant renewal, which I know it may feel a little bit early for that since some of you are just getting started. But just know that Illinois Works grantees can earn up to 2 renewals after their first grant year. To earn a renewal, grantees must meet specific performance thresholds, and that's where your compliance scores come into to matter. For renewal, organizations that meet or exceed compliance metrics of at least 76%, which is good progress, are generally invited to renew for the following year. There are some grantees who sometimes receive conditional renewal. Those are organizations that have met a compliance metric between 65 and 75%, which is high inadequate progress. And then there are 2 rounds of renewal. So we do the first pull in September and extend invitations if the compliance scores meet the thresholds. If things aren't looking so great in September, you have until October to really put in the work and get that compliance score up, and then you could be invited for either renewal or conditional renewal for the following year. Sorry, I know I went fast there at the end. Are there any questions?
There are no questions in the chat.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for your time. I'm going to turn things back over to Carlita so that we can get you out of here on time so that you can give your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Good job. So we want to hear from you really quickly, again, by actually using the multimedia on your slide and or using the scan QR code to scan into the multimedia so we can get your evaluation. So I'm going to switch screens for a minute while you're getting set up and move us into our final stage of this webinar. All right, so let's begin with our first question. Please share your views on this training by rating the following between 1 being the lowest to 10 being the highest. To what extent did it meet your expectations? How likely are you to attend a similar event in the future? And how likely are you to recommend this training to others? All right, looks like we're getting more feedback here. Give you a few more seconds to get your answers in so you can have a chance to vote. All right, next question. The course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about the subject matter. From strongly disagree to strongly agree, and keep note that these designations will shift around a little bit, so be mindful as you make your selection. All right. And are there any other contributions before we move on to the next question? Thank you. I plan to apply what I learned. There was a lot of information given here today for how to ACE compliance. So your thoughts on that? All right, looks like we're 50-50 on that one. All right, thank you for your responses. Thank you. Are there any other responses before we move on? Thank you. All right. And then what improvements? I noticed we had some agree and some disagrees in the earlier part of these evaluations. So what improvements might you recommend? Take a few minutes to type in your answer. Tell us what you think we could do better. So we have one NA. Thank you. Any other feedback? What might you recommend? Not at this time. The information was to the point. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Okay, so let's go on to our next question. What did you find effective? So we've talked about a lot of different things here. The verifications, the checklist, the tools. What did you find effective? And if we made any changes, what would you recommend we keep? And if there are no changes, you could just say NA, just to let me know you're out there. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. Is there anything else about this course you think we should know? Maybe there was something you would have liked to have seen a part of this discussion. Is there anything like that you would like for us to know? Thank you for your responses. Great. It looks like we kind of did a good job of covering all of the bases. It looks that way, at least. So I'm going to switch it over back to our screen to kind of send you off with a great thank you for being here and have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.